of quality products has gone down here in the U.S. If you look around at if it's cheap materials, they're coming in from China to products that intentionally break down after a few years, so you need to buy another one. And you might be in one of those industries, a small business owner, and understand that. Or if it's the cookie cutter home developments that you can see with the same brick veneer in the front, and then with the vinyl siding on vinyl sidings. There's this the question that comes up with this is what's the results from poor quality? When it comes to poor quality of products and services, what can come up is less care. I've talked about that before here on the show. Less care then can connect back to communities of the breaking down of communities. If you're not caring as much of wanting to take care of the community that you're part of, that you're living in, then it can break down. Cities falling apart. We can look around here in the U.S. and see a lot of cities falling apart, and then a lowered overall quality of life. And there becomes a self-centered focus of just trying to get your life together. And when that happens, you then can't care about anything else. And then we can get into just accepting what is given to us without realizing that we do have a choice. And I want to get into this more, focusing on quality and what happened what I talked about in the last show. But welcome back to the show. Excited to be able to go live again this week. Another week. I'm going to get the chat up here so I can get your messages coming in. See what you're saying. But yeah, when there's just an acceptance of what's given to you without realizing that you do have a choice, then we can go down a slippery slope where we have more pressure put on these freedoms that a lot of times people can take for granted here in the US. These freedoms, if I would ask you, when was the last time that you read the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution? When was the last time where you understood the freedoms that you do have in this country? And I know, thinking back for me, I'm guilty of it too, where I wasn't taking the time to actually look at these documents and realize just how much freedom I take for granted here in the US. One of them is freedom of speech, is what comes up. Being able to criticize and publicly talk about what's going on, if it's relating to the government, relating to what's happening in our country, being able to have that opportunity to have a conversation. And it's so important for us to be able to be in the same space where we can disagree with each other and then still live in a civil society here in the US. That is so important to be able to continue to have stability in this country that is being tested, absolutely being tested right now. And so this is why having the worldview of power and then the rest of us can wake you up to the reality that there are evil forces like Marxists and globalists that are putting pressure on our individual freedoms. And when we can take a moment to get out of our own small worlds and then realize what is going on, we can remind ourselves that we do have a choice in what we do moving forward. And so from the last show, I want to get into that for the last show and how it connects to quality. Because as I get more into it, I'm starting to notice different potential connection points that gets me to when I don't understand something, and that can come up a lot. When I don't understand something, I'm like, all right, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to ask more questions here and understand and try to understand what is going on here, and having to peel back these layers. It can feel like these layers of lies and get to what is the truth, seeking out the truth. And I've said that before, as one of my commitments for the show is to seek out the truth for you, what you can expect. And then where I do make mistakes, because I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, nobody's perfect. When I do make mistakes, it's owning up to those mistakes and admitting them. So from the last show, I shared with you the tragic event in DC where 2 National Guards were shot and one has lost her life, Sarah Beckstrom. I also talked about the video that was put out, video that's going around known as Seditious Six, and how Jesse Waters over at Fox News shared that CIA analysts were telling him that this is part of a bigger hoax. And it's to get us prepared for something bad to happen. And what has been coming up, what's been talked about on other podcasts, is that there's concern. There's concern specifically relating to this feeling. And again, it's people sharing their opinions on it, which we shouldn't be afraid to be able to share our opinions. That we're in an early the early stages of a color revolution here in the U.S. Now, I didn't know what this was, so I had to take the time to to look into it. And again, it's not a conspiracy theory, a conspiracy out there. This happens, and then there was other concern that came up of false flag operations, and I had heard about that before, but a while back. But then I had to get into understanding it a little bit more, and I want to share that with you for both of these, because it's important to realize that if we are as a country, if we don't have stability, then it becomes a lot harder as a small business owner for you to operate your business. And I know that it can be really easy, as I said before, to stay in your own world and you're just trying to get by. And you're just like, I don't really want to hear this. This doesn't really affect me directly, might be the thoughts that come up. But I will tell you, for those of you that don't want to get involved in politics, for better or for worse, politics is involved with you. And it's important to remember that. So for the color revolutions, I want to get into that here. Color revolutions, what it is, it's nonviolent mass protests. A component, like some components of it, is legitimate leadership, exposing that, and so um, that is coming up here with relating to President Trump. Where there's a delegitimate leadership of Trump, and then to make illegitimate what is normal governance. And what can pop up for opinions is the Seditious Six video, and how that can then relate to another component of a color revolution, where it creates military instability. And again, the objective is to change who's in power. It's a regime change, for a method, and this was done back in early 2000s in Georgia and Ukraine, and then U.S. involvement. You can look this up. You can look at the connection with our country relating to to specifically. I had here I'll get back to that one for that point. Yeah, let me get back to that one. So you can think of actually, no, here it is. Yeah. So two organizations you could look up in when it comes to U.S. involvement is National Endowment for Democracy, and then USAID, or USAID. You may know that was big in the news earlier in the year with Doge, and you can look at what was the U.S. involvement in these color revolutions in Georgia and Ukraine relating to these organizations. And so I have said it before, this is the greatest country in the world, and this country isn't perfect. And so this isn't, as I said before, isn't a conspiracy of this having happened in the past. And so that's why there's that concern that comes up. Then there's a concern of false flag operation relating to the tragic event in DC, where what a false flag operation is a covert operation designed to deceive the public into believing that the attack was by someone else. And where you can look up for relating to this, because again, this is not conspiracy, is you can look up the proposed Operation Northwoods by our country. And you can see that, okay, there's a history of this happening. So when people that I'm noticing in the podcast space, alternative media, are expressing these concerns, instead of just completely shutting it out, it's being curious. As I talked about before, you don't understand something, be curious and ask questions, and go through those layers of seeking out the truth. And so, what comes up for like why this again matters is that if there is economic disorder, I think back to this line: economic disorder leads to political radicalism. And as I said right before getting into it, with instability, it becomes very hard to operate a small business. And so we've got to come back to what changes can we make as small business owners. And then if you are a supporter of a small business owner, and you aren't an owner, but you support small businesses, how can we unite? What is what are we gonna do moving forward here? Like, how do we start to create more stability in this country? Because of and avoid the potential of a color revolution that that there's concern about that's happening in this country. Which again, shocking for me to realize, oh wait, this can happen. This could potentially be happening in our country. That was a shock, and so that might be a shock for you. But there is a history of these happening in other places around the world. And truth, I said it before, truth can be overwhelming. It can even be shocking at time, and it can give you peace in understanding what is going on. I said it before on the show that there can be certain things that I look at in specifically industries for small businesses. Look at when I go through the filter of the worldview, power, and the rest of us, noticing how certain things just don't make sense if that's unnecessary regulations, to the difficulty of competition in certain industries. Like, it wakes you up to evil forces that are out there. And I know that there are so many small business owners that truly care about the people that they're serving through their products and their services. And it would be a disservice for me to not share with you the truth, and then for us to then figure out how can we move forward and continue to improve this country, and to continue to move forward and increase the quality of life of Americans, to continue to push for the government to support its citizens. It would be a disservice for me to not move forward and continue to voice that on the show of how can we come together and unite to make improvements, because we're very similar in a lot of ways. We want to have a decent life for ourselves, our family, want to improve our communities, want to, I think of want to be able to speak our mind and share our opinions and reviews, and not have a label placed on us unnecessarily, where someone's not even taking the time to understand where we're coming from or what we're trying to communicate, but goes straight to a label to try to shut us up. That's not a country I want to live in. I don't want a country where I have to drive around in an armored vehicle because it's so unsafe out there. I don't want that. And I come back to, again, the statement: economic disorder leads to political radicalism. And with instability, it becomes very hard to operate a small business. So this is where quality comes back. Okay. I think about hand irons for a fireplace, and how there've been hand irons that have been passed down to multiple generations. There was this pride for the work that in the work in the product that someone did, and pride in and beauty in that product. But it just feels like we've overall, and again, overall, it's not to say everyone out there, but overall, the amount of quality products has gone down, and we as small businesses have a powerful voice. There's 33 million small businesses here in the US that employ 45% of the private workforce. And so there is an opportunity to really set a new standard for quality and communicate that and market that of pride in the quality of the products, beauty in the products. Because when you have quality in your life, you want to take care of it more. When you have beauty, you want to protect it, preserve it. And that can then have a ripple effect of wanting to protect and preserve our communities, our cities, making them better, and then our country overall. And really cleaning up a lot of the mess that over past multiple decades have unfolded in our country. And small businesses, you play a big part in that. And so I do want to know if you are a small business owner and you have pride in the quality of work that you put out there in your products. I want to hear. I want to learn more about you about those products. Share them. Share them for how you feel in having these products be produced, and then the impact that's having on the people that are buying your products. It's really important for us to continue to spread this message of pride in the quality of the work. And going back to where can we localize supply chain too? Where can we bring that back here in the United States? Where does that make sense? And then I am America first. I've said that before, but I'm not America only either. And it's important to recognize as well where can we make sure that we're localizing the supply chain and then making sure that we are not getting ripped off when we're working with other countries. That's really important as well. And not taken advantage of either. And I even think back to like an example of Pizza Hut is what comes up after a soccer game when I was a kid. You know, I'd go to Pizza Hut, celebrate, but now I don't go because it's not healthy to me. And so, what gives me a lot of hope is this "Make America Healthy Again" movement that has been growing. And it's not a right or left issue. It doesn't have to be. It's mainstream media is try to create that divide. But no, it's about wanting to be healthy in this country and wanting to make sure that we are getting the best ingredients we can and figuring out how to make it more affordable. Like that is something we can all come together. And it gives me a lot of hope to see small businesses that are out there that are focused on that message of healthy ingredients. If that's again full service restaurants, I've talked about that before on the show, and those restaurants are focused on that. And making sure that we are making it easier for more Americans to start small businesses. I think of even farmers markets and thinking back to small family farms and how we've got to make those changes in that industry. And so there's a lot of industries that get involved here. No one can do it alone. And when we continue to have a unified front for this message of quality and taking pride in this, then as consumers, we have the choice, right? We have the choice of how we spend our money. And even though I think of Gen Z being the most in debt generation in history for their age and where it's buying on credit and where that has to change, we've got to get out of this debt society that we built ourselves on and figure out those solutions. And that goes back to creating more opportunities when it comes to jobs and small businesses can have a great opportunity for a small business renaissance. As I said before, America's future is a small business renaissance to create more job opportunities so that then we can be able to have more opportunities to be able to buy quality products. And so there's ripple effects that can happen here. But it comes back to within your industry, we as small business owners must build economic order and unite with supporters of small businesses to make a lot of changes in our industries to raise the quality of life and it's raising the quality of life for the bottom 50% of small businesses. Like there can feel like this, I see it out there, this chasing to have a seat at the table for the 1%. But it's like, how about we just raise the bottom 50% of small businesses and then notice what happens for everyone in society. Let's notice what happens if we can raise the bottom 50% for the overall quality of life for everyone and notice what happens there. Um, because we cannot continue to uh, I think about it, if it's our national debt of over $38 trillion, that can't continue to keep increasing at the speed that it's increasing. The amount of people that are on welfare programs here in the US, it's not sustainable. Amount of people that had come into this country illegally is not sustainable for the infrastructure of this country. Thinking back to home prices, back at the early 1980s, the average home price was 3 times the median income. Today, it's 7 times. The average home price is 7 times the median income. So change is coming, but we've got to channel that change in a way that we can make a lot of positive impact in our industries. Thinking back to, where can you get rid of unnecessary regulations? Where can you increase competition? How can you make it easier for an American to start a small business in a specific industry? Those are some questions that we can be curious and explore more and have conversations about. Because I do not want to have it where economic disorder leads to political radicalism. I don't want that in our country. I love this country. I hope you love this country too. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us. This is a determined movement, and it's a growing movement. And I really do. I'm grateful for your support, and do believe in America's future. America's future is a small business renaissance. I do believe in that, but it's going to take a lot of work, and there's going to be a lot of changes ahead to make, and it's gonna be a bumpy ride. But your support is what continues to help fuel my courage to seek the truth, to have these conversations, these really important conversations, and to recognize what is going on. To not just think about ourselves, but to think future generations ahead of us. Because honestly, that's not what happened for us. I said it before, for decades, our ruling class leaders sold out our future. And we've got to make changes. We've got to continue to figure out, how can we work with elected officials in order to support the American people, and think about it in the long term, not just the short term, to get votes. We're tired of that. We're tired of the lip service. We're tired of the false promises. If you can't deliver, don't say it. But let's work together to make substantial change moving forward. And to remember that we've got to preserve the freedoms in this country. Freedom of speech is one, to be able to have these conversations, and the other is freedom to decide how you make a living, which includes your ability to own your small business. And then so much more. So much more for those freedoms that we've got to preserve. I know it was a lot. I know. For me, it's overwhelming, it's shocking, goes back to what I said about the truth. But it can give you peace moving forward to realize what we can do. And when we unite, amazing, beautiful things can unfold. We can fight for what is beautiful, true, and good in this country. I'll see you tomorrow.